Hi, folks. Brian Blackmore with Church Production Magazine and Dave.video here with you today. Well, the New York Times recently ran a headline that read, "Does it make sense to go back to the way things were before the pandemic?" Well, here to discuss these things and a whole lot more as they pertain to church production, we have Chuck Fishbein, who is a filmmaker with Hope Community Church. Chuck, say hi to everybody.
Hello, how you doing?
We have Josh Etheridge, who is a filmmaker with Blue Ridge Community Church in Forest, Virginia. Josh, say hi.
How's it going?
And we have Wayne Schulman, who's a vice president with Nan Light Lighting, based in the New York City area. Wayne, say hi to everybody. Okay, Chuck, let's start with you. Can we go back? And if so, should we go back as it pertains to how church video production was done a year or more ago?
Well, I'd love to say we should go back, and I'm saying we could go back, but I don't think we will go back. I mean, so many things have changed, not just in church production, but in all production. People are not going to their offices as they were. They're doing their work from home. I think they've begun to build their home life around that. Their pets are certainly happy that they're home more often. Although I've heard some pets are stressed that they don't get time off from their families.
Especially cats.
They need their time.
Are they always stressed?
But I think things have evolved due to the pandemic. And although people will be going back to churches, I don't think it'll be in the way that it was. I don't think everything will just go back the way it was. And I think that it's positive in a sense that we're also now reaching new people that maybe would not come into the church building. Maybe they're intimidated or just, as they often say, putting their toe in the water for the first time or testing the waters. And this is giving them a chance to sort of be there and watch from the wings. And if they want to get more involved, then
And with anonymity.
they can. Yes, yeah. And some people need that. Some people sit in the back row. Not everybody is up front. So how does that work in your church, Josh?
Yeah, no, it's certainly been interesting moving primarily to an online audience, whereas that was kind of our back burner. That was there for backup purposes. We didn't really have a consistent, we didn't call it a campus, that's for sure, but now we have a full-on online campus that's still our largest attendance. And you're right, though, it is interesting, I guess, figuring out philosophy. Do you want it to be a window into what's happening inside the church, or do you want to create a unique experience for an online viewer? And so we've really had to try and navigate those things and try and make those decisions and try and do its best for each audience type, knowing that someone's on their living room and another one is inside a room with 1,000 chairs.
Right. Well, it's interesting. A lot of the media that we were creating was designed to attract a certain audience, a certain demographic, as you say, a certain age bracket that are young married men in a certain age group, and bring their families in. And we were creating videos to attract them, and using that for outreach or using that within services. So when they're there, they would like the vibe, and now I think those things are working, but just not in the building, so we've done more of that.
Yeah, it's interesting you brought that up, because for me, I know just as a person, I've kind of made my own, I guess, branded mission statement. And for me, I feel like my unique role is to help create experiences where people experience God, help create environments where people experience God. And so with that in mind, you're right, where it's where we would have put up videos on Vimeo to try and get people in, now we're trying to create content that's actually going to create an experience for them to encounter God there in their living room, there in their, in their car or wherever it is that they're watching. So I've had to try and adapt that, and it's been difficult.
Well, at Hope, we were always saying, reach people where they are. And in our area, we have the research triangle, and reach the triangle and change the world. It's sort of their motto. And this is all working. When you look at what people are doing every day, they're on their phones, they're on their devices, they're on their television, they're on everything. And that applies to the kind of media that we're creating also. Those are things we have to compete with when it comes to people's attention. I totally agree with you, Josh, that my mission also is to set up an environment, get people set up to receive a message. That's what the worship team is doing too. You're feeling the worship, but you're really setting people up to be in the mood to receive the word. And whatever you want to communicate to them at that point, it needs to be effective, but you need to be talking to them in a language that they're used to now too. Just standing up on the pulpit and preaching isn't reaching. People at that point checking their phones in the back aisle. You need to talk to them in their language, in the language of today.
That's where I wanted to go with this. What has changed? In terms, you've already mentioned it, Chuck, with regards to lighting to some extent, but how have things changed at your church, Josh, with regards to the video production, the lighting, just the priority for the online audience?
Yeah. Also, I guess a little bit of background is we have a relatively smaller staff, specifically for production. So there's two of us on staff just to manage the video, and then we've got our tech director. But when we were just kind of putting our iMag mix out online. That was the way that we were doing our podcast as well. And so when things changed, we realized that the quality wasn't great. The music didn't sound good. We're competing with, I guess in some sense we're competing with YouTube and social media, and people are putting out really good content. So then to put, just to try and throw that online is that's a little painful to listen to. It's a little painful to watch. So we moved it to a post-production, completely post-produced service. And this is a lot of trial and error, a lot of experimentation. But what we landed on now is we have probably a good 20 songs to choose from that have been post-produced in our homes and studios, that kind of thing, that we'll kind of choose from for a service. We do a unique, we call it hosting, where we have two people that have a conversation and try and pull in a community aspect to our service, which is all post-production. We shoot that throughout the week. And then every series that we do, so we are a series-based church, every series that we do, we change up our studio set. And so sometimes it's a living room set, couch, that kind of thing. Sometimes there's a little more edgy with lights in the background, some of the Pavo tubes, that kind of thing. And so every new series we'll switch out the set, but everything is post-produced. We capture that a week before, edit it, do all the music, master the audio, color grade it so it looks as best as it can, and we'll do a unique post-produced service every single week. So where my job before the pandemic was creating more experiential films, testimonies, art pieces, that kind of thing that will enhance the worship or tell people's story, that kind of thing. Now I would say half my job, 50% of my job is trying to pull off these weekend services each week.
Yeah, it's become my full-time job. As you say, we have a staff. We have 4 shooters in our group, and Sarah, my wife, is the senior producer. So she's directing and wrangling the stuff, and all you need to do to make the workflow go. So we had strong videos. We would have introductory videos. We would have bumper videos that were leading into the service that were thematic, and they would be very dramatic and heavy. That's what the traffic light is from. It was from what to do when God says wait. So we use the traffic light. What to do when He says go.
You just snagged it from an old intersection down the road.
There have been accidents for weeks on I-1, but But so we're balanced. For us, we always had a large stage presence in 3 or 4 campuses, with maybe 7 or 8 people on stage, maybe more at a time. We continued this immediately. We increased the amount of production we were doing with our videos. That was important, having strong quality videos in between to assure people in the beginning of the pandemic that we're still there for you. Mm-hmm. That was really important. And I digress for a bit, that the quality of that was really important too, because we had to go in there and make it look pro, because this is what people are used to looking at. Even the simplest YouTube videos these days are well lit and well produced, and we're in competition with that. And quality does matter. If you don't think so, send up something with bad audio or bad video, and just watch how quickly you lose everybody's attention. So it's important. I hate to say the word competitive, but we are competing with other media.
No doubt.
Because we're competing for people's attention.
Well, I've heard it said, you guys are the professionals, but I've heard it said that there's two primary ways to improve production quality and video production quality, and that is with camera and lens selection and with improved lighting. But lighting actually seems like it might be the less expensive way to go when choosing between the two. Would you guys agree?
I would say that yes, camera and lens selection and lighting would be the two things to get you within your bar. And then if you're ever going to try and push those boundaries, I would say there's going to be a lot more to it.
For us, and this applies for every project I've worked on, story has to be strong, and it's had to be even stronger yet. I mean, you could sometimes shoot it with your phone, shoot it with pixel vision. As long as you got a good story, you're going to hook people. But we have a range of cameras and a range of lenses, and we've even had anamorphic lenses recently, low budget anamorphic lenses. But to be able to have lighting that you can control, to have lighting that you can do things with other than just make the room bright, that's important. Because I'm fighting with the lighting department all the time on stage. It's like, it's video, it needs light. You're being dramatic, you're acting like it's stage light, like a rock show, but I need light to see the people, otherwise I'm going to get noise. When I'm doing thematic stuff, when we're doing interviews, when we're doing any of our creative work, we want to have lighting that we can sculpt with, basically, where you could put a highlight, a halo. Lighting creates the mood. It sets the mood of the picture. It focuses the mood of the picture. It can center your eyes to what you're looking at, and the same way angles and triangles do. It brings you into the center of the picture, and if you have a glow and a halo around things, it'll bring your eye to where you want it to look. And that's part of the job as a cinematographer, is to put people's eyes and where you want it to be. And that's one of the things we've gotten with the nanlight stuff, is that it has. I mean, we started using it about a year ago, and it has a lot of unique modifiers. And in that, meaning snoots and bellows, soft boxes with grids and projectors so we can focus light. All that is real important, because it's one thing to just start with a nice softbox, but to be able to sculpt, and when I say sculpt, create use light and dark to your advantage. Sometimes you have to bring in more dark than you have to bring in light to make a picture work well. Sometimes it's we actually bring a black card in to shadow somebody's face. You don't want it to just be bright. And that lighting affects the mood of the person watching. And that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to make them feel something. Whether you're delivering a simple message, or you're asking for your time or your money, or help with a mission trip in Haiti or Uganda, That's how we got into working with churches in the first place. We watched somebody's video on an orphanage in Nairobi, and we said, like, how do you expect to raise funds with this video? And before I knew it, we found ourselves in Nairobi doing it. But it's important because the quality matters.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say in terms of improvement, what I've seen with our team is the things that have been important there are a number of words that you can say that mean the same thing. Some things that come to my mind would be like, when we are inspired, then we catch a momentum. When we see something that is just very captivating, we've got this desire to not just recreate, but kind of, eat it up and see what happens. And so we get on this thing and we get into this, like, okay, how can we make it happen? Let's get out the gear. Let's get the stuff up. How do they do that? Let's, all this stuff. When we're looking at, like, I do a lot of work in New York, so we go up there and we're working with either high fashion stuff or beauty stuff, or even like museum and gallery work that's going all over the world. Then you see these images and you're like, wow, this is amazing. And then you take it back to the team and you get to see little glimpses of how we did it, how they were able to pull it off, that kind of thing. And we get this momentum, and it becomes this like chaotic studio space where at one point it's perfectly clean, and 5 minutes later everything is out. And experimenting and getting stuff going. And in that list there are a number of Nanlite stuff because they're compact, easy to use, variable color temperatures with high CRI value, all the technical stuff that you'd want. So we got the things flying all over the place and getting things going. And it's that momentum that starts pushing us forward and into the next. We level up, we learn something new, we figure out, hard light. Oh, wow, hard light, it creates this shine. That's really great when we're going to try and shoot super sharp. And so our aperture is, f8 to f12. And so we've got the 300 with the 4 is a 300 with the Fresnel fixture.
With the really large bank. Is that incredible?
Yeah. And but anyway, so we get this stuff out and we start gaining momentum, and that's the thing that has pushed us forward. And my passion has always been, I see what happens when we're out on these commercial shoots, and I see the amount of resources and thought and attention to detail that these companies put into their work that don't make a difference in the world. I mean, it's a shoe company or it's a hair company or something, and it's just, you look at the church that has fallen so far behind in art and technical ability and all this stuff, and you're like, you've got companies over here who don't really matter in the spectrum of eternity, and then you've got your church and your local congregation that is impacting all of eternity and making a difference. Why can we not try and apply these same principles and create something that's meaningful and worthwhile? So that's always been my passion in terms of improving and kind of the things that I've seen work.
Yeah, what you said, Josh, about getting inspired and going from an empty studio to having gear everywhere, from a manufacturer's point of view and a distributor's point of view, that is kind of like guides us. Designing product and lights that nobody can afford or only the shoe manufacturer can afford to use is really not the direction that we want to go in. Being able to allow people like you to afford to have multiple lights on hand and ready to go when you get that inspiration is really what we design our products for, to be owned and truly operated. That's the goal of our products, and that's what we're going to continue to do.
Well, job well done, because we're putting you to the test here.
Being cost efficient with quality is just so spot on, because we're not using our dollars. We're not doing shoe companies. We're taking our money from the congregation, from donations to the church. We have to spend every dollar wisely, and the product we return has to be worthy of what we're doing. Has to be important enough to just make cool films. Yeah, but they have to mean something, and they have to affect change.
And if you can afford, if quality and affordability come together in lights, then it's not just about the purchase of the lights that matter. It's money that can be used somewhere else.
Wayne, are there products or tools or accessories or modifiers that you're producing now that maybe you weren't before the pandemic, or that maybe you're producing more of because of the demand, due to more content creators, producing content as a result of the pandemic?
Yes, part of what the pandemic has done to lighting, and this is from a broad view, because we sell to the major dealers and resellers around the world, is there's been an explosion in sales of lighting for video and cine. Not just for the lighting for something like this. I'm using a small Pavo tube to help light me during this conversation, but also for the people like Josh and Chuck, the content creators out there. Everyone wants to up their game. They realize that a lot of people are making a lot of content, and if you want to be noticed and if you want to present yourself in a proper way, then you need to do it through all the not just lighting, but all of the attributes that go into a good content. We stepped up our production. We came out with the snoots as the projection mounts sooner than we thought we would. We're rolling out new products over the next 3 months sooner than we thought we would because of the explosion in it. And I don't think it's so much products as added features that are put into the products.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. That has really gained speed due to the pandemic. We're not just coming out with a light. We're coming out with a light that has a lot more features in it.
Sure.
I think the Forza 60 is our Swiss Army knife. We use that like for everything, everywhere. You throw 3 of them in a bag. You jump on a plane. You throw them in your car. They're just so small. They do so much, and they put out an amazing amount of light. So they really have become the go-to tool to be on the go.
Our go-to so far with like a beauty style interview lighting is we'll do a larger softbox overhead. I've got the Forza 300 in one of those 120 parabolics. And so we'll put that overhead, and then just to hit the extra shine, we'll put the 60 in the, not even as a backlight, we'll just put it we'll snoot it in with some cinefoil and literally just open face or however we need to do it, and just get a slight bit of shine on the front of the face, accelerate, just to create some more shape here. And that's kind of our go-to right now is big softbox overhead, beauty dish, and then just ping them with the 60.
Okay, well, thank you to Chuck Fishbein with Hope Community Church in Raleigh, North Carolina, and Josh Etheridge with Blue Ridge Community Church in Forest, Virginia, and Wayne Schulman with Nan Light Lighting in the New York City area, as we've been discussing video production and the changes that have been brought about as a result of the pandemic. So thank you to the 3 of you guys. Thank you for joining us today.